Hey everybody, I am doing some research digging into the book of Song of Songs. I had a couple people request that we do a couple different chapters in the Song of Songs. The theme of Song of Songs is pretty simple, and it's only an 8-chapter book. So I'm just going to address the book as a whole in this time. So grab your notes, grab your Bible journaling notebook, whatever you need to take notes. We are going to color code today, so you'll need a couple different highlighters or markers or whatever you want to color code with. So today we're just going to stay in this book of Song of Songs. It's also known as the Song of Solomon because they are guessing that Solomon wrote it, but some people aren't sure. But we'll dig into that in a minute. Let me get set up and I'll meet you over there. Okay, just checking this is live streaming and I will go ahead and get started. I believe it is. Okay, awesome. Okay, Song of Songs. I'm going to use a combination of things, not just looking at this. I want to kind of show you a little bit of where my research is coming from. Just as a overview of what the book is about, at the beginning of your Bible, you might have some notes. You can always refer to those to kind of get some reference of what the whole book context is going to be about. This one has an at a glance. It tells you the author, who the audience is, the date it was probably written, and the theme of it. So there's always really helpful stuff at the beginning of it if you ever want some context for what you're reading. This book, which is it's the Illustrating Bible, it does not offer any other information except it's got some footnotes down here that you can refer to. So you might want to use another Bible if you are trying to get some context outside of just the words to get some commentary. So anyways, let's dig into what my Bible says. I'm using my favorite Bible, which is not doing so hot these days, but I'm looking into getting a rebound. So if anybody knows a great place that will rebind a Bible, that would be great to know. All right, it says, okay, so I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but basically what it's telling us is that the book Song of Songs is probably written by King Solomon, who is King David's son. And the theme of this book is to basically talk about sex from a Christian perspective and understand that it is not a sin. It is a gift from God that he has given us, and the joy of sex in marriage. In addition to that, it's not just about that. It's an analogy for our relationship between God and us, and God's love for us, Christ as the groom for his bride, the church. So you'll see represented in the New Testament, the bridegroom analogies and things like that. And a lot of those are referencing Song of Solomon as well. So Christ is the groom, the church is the bride, and a Christian's love for the Lord in addition to God's love for his people. So it's just talking about a lot of analogies in addition to not the way that God has designed marriage and sex, and that it is not a sin if you're using it in the way that God intended. Obviously, our world has been, Satan is an expert at taking anything that God has given us as a gift and turning it into evil. And so it's not that sex is evil, it's that lots of times we approach it in evil ways. And so this is a reminder of this is actually intended to be a gift. And so this is one of those books that people always say it's the most sexually explicit, but compared to stuff you see nowadays, it's pretty tame. So let's just dig into it. I'm not going to be reading the entire thing, but I'm going to help you kind of outline it to figure out how to journal this in your own Bible. So now that I've given you kind of the background, I'm also going to be referencing my cheat sheet that I created for this. It's one page. It's in the Song of Songs and Ecclesiastes combo. Those are both supposedly written by King Solomon, and they're short books, so I gave one page to each. So I'm going to be referencing this in my notes just to help you out. So when you go over to verse 1, it says Solomon's Song of Songs. So right there, you've already got that this was written by Solomon. So I'm going to just make a note of that and put that he's the author. And then it says she, and then down here in the footnote, it says the main male and female speakers, identified primarily on the basis of the gender of the relevant Hebrew forms, are indicated by the captions he and she respectively. The words of others are marked friends. In some instances, the divisions in the captions are debatable. So over here, it's just kind of giving you the key that she equals the female, he equals the male, and friends are others. So I'm going to color code those. Let's do a pink and a blue and a green. How about that? So friends are going to be green. You can color code however you want. Pink for the she and blue for the he. So right now I am not going to actually read the words. I'm going to just create a visual for myself to understand who the speaker is as I'm going through the Song of Songs. And I'm actually going to knock out the entire book. And so instead of wearing my highlighter out and doing every single line, I'm going to do this number. So let's start with verse 1, or actually it's verse 2. I'm going to highlight the word she, and then I'm going to draw a line to show this whole section is the speaker that is she. Then I'm going to go down to friends, that we've made green. Same thing, I'm going to highlight that and then just do a line down to show this whole section, the speaker is the friends. Then we're going back to she. Then friends. And then he. So just continue in this way. You can go through the whole book and do all the she's, then all the friends, then all the he's, or you can keep switching like I am, however you want. So let's take about 2 minutes to get through all 8 chapters and color code them. Okay, so this section is the end of 2 is she, and then it starts chapter 3, and it doesn't have a title, so we're going to assume that that's continuing this she section. So what I want you to do is just keep that line going. And then you're going to do the same thing. Your Bible is going to be split up different than mine unless you're using the same exact thing. So you just continue that line if it goes to the next page. You don't need to label anything because the color is your label. It's just like over here. This doesn't have a title at the top, but I know it's continued from this chapter, so I'm just continuing that color. All right, so I'm halfway through 5, and we're going to 8. What was I on? She. So this section is she as well. And then we'll go back and read and talk about the details. But right now, I'm not even reading what's happening in the chapter. I'm just trying to figure out who's talking so I can keep it straight when I do go note take. And that way you can kind of look back in the sections at the notes you've taken and see the themes according to each person. So you'll see, get more insight that way. I did the wrong color. All right. If you're watching this later, you fast forward or pause it, depending on how fast you're going along with me. So I've now color-coded the entire book of Song of Songs. Your Bible might say Song of Solomon. They are, depending on the version translation that you have, they'll call it a different thing. So let's jump all the way back to the beginning, now that we've got everything organized. Okay, then I like to have things that I want to notice highlighted. So that's why I didn't use yellow on these other ones. Because now I'm going to use yellow. It's going to be my neutral highlighter that is just going to highlight things that I want to stand out or make a note of. So just from my notes, I think that it would be helpful for you to see. Let's rewrite this kind of stuff on the side. It says that chapters 1 and 2 are supposed to, or this whole thing is supposed to be like a love poem. And chapters 1 and 2 are the courtship, 3 and 4 are the wedding, and 5 through 8 are the lasting relationship. So we're going to rewrite that in the margins just as our guide. This is not a great pen. And now I'll scoot in so you could see a little better. So it's a love poem, chapters 1 through 2, chapters 3 through 4, and chapters 5 through 8 are the sections. And this is courtship. This is wedding. And this is, it says the lasting relationship. You could write marriage, I guess, if you just want one word. Or married life. And I'm also going to write a note right here that this is AKA Song of Solomon, or if yours says Song of Solomon, you can write AKA Song of Songs. Okay, let's see. Let me read just a little bit, not the whole not the whole book, but maybe this first chapter. It says, the woman is talking, then the friends comment, then the woman talks again, the friends comment, then the male and the female talk back and forth. And remember, we're listening to a conversation that's written in poem form, and this is courtship. So they're just meeting each other, and they're falling in love. So she says, let me kiss him with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. So she's ready to get married, sounds like. Friends say, we rejoice and delight in you. We will praise your love more than wine. And I would like to note that this we represents the friends, who represents others. In some commentaries, I have noticed that this might be the Trinity. So friends rejoice over love. That could be that it's, this is made up. This is just talking about actual people. Or it could be, you know, God's perspective of this is what I intended love to look like. So I just think that's important to note that some commentaries suspect that the friends represent the Trinity commenting. That says, I don't know if I just read this. We rejoice and delight in you. We will praise your love more than wine. And then she says, how right they are to adore you. Dark am I, yet lovely, daughters of Jerusalem, dark like the tents of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I am dark, because I am darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard I had to neglect. Tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends? Then the friends say, if you do not know, most beautiful of women, follow the tracks of the sheep and graze your young goats by the tents of the shepherd. Okay, then he starts talking for the first time. I liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariot horses. Your cheeks are beautiful with earrings, your neck with strings of jewels. We will make you earrings of gold studded with silver. And she says, while the king was at his table, my perfume spread its fragrance. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh resting between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms from the vineyard of En-Gedi. He says, how beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes are doves. She says, how handsome you are, my beloved. Oh, how charming. And our bed is verdant. He says, the beams of our house are cedars, our rafters are firs. And that's the first chapter. So this goes on and on and on. They're just enraptured with each other's beauty, with their character, with the possibility of being together. They can't wait. And so we're talking about three analogies, and you'll see that throughout the Song of Solomon. But I do want to note that they're going to say the word beloved a lot. They're going to start saying beloved a lot. And beloved means they're talking about the female. And it's the one my heart loves. And then they're going to talk about lover. And most of the time they're referencing the male. And that one, they say, how beautiful you are. Okay, so she's talking about, oh, I'm sorry, I've mixed these up. The female is saying the word beloved, talking about the male. And the male is saying lover. So that's why I've got that, talking about the female. So male speaks, female speaks. So that's a little different than what I was explaining before. So that's like their nicknames for each other. Okay, so let's go on to some descriptions and dig into those with our highlighter. Descriptions of lover to nature. There's a couple of them. I'm going from my notes. And the first one is, I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. Like a lily among the thorns is my darling among the young women. So one example is the lily among, the thorns. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. So we've got an apple tree in the forest. Okay, when we keep going. Here we go, verse 9 of chapter 2. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall. So she also compares, they're also comparing each other to a gazelle, him as a gazelle or young stag. Oh dear. Try to draw this little deer. And this is, oh, I just hear some thunder. It's storming outside. Okay, so the lily among the thorns is describing the woman. The apple tree in the forest, she's describing him, so that's the man. And then she continues with the gazelle or young stag, and that's the man as well. Okay, let's keep going. My dove, or verse 14, my dove in the clefts of the rock is a hiding place in the mountainside. Show me your face, let me see your voice. Your voice is sweet, your face is lovely. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards and vineyards that are in bloom. I haven't got to, let's keep going. Okay, chapter 4, this is what I'm looking for. Chapter 4, verse 1, how beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes behind your veil are doves. Your hair is like a flock of goats. So to us, that doesn't sound very pretty, but apparently that was quite the compliment. Okay, so the last thing I want to note of the descriptions of the lover to nature are eyes like doves and hair like flock of goats. And that's in chapter 4, verse 1. I'm just going to do these bumps showing like a flock. Oops, hair like flock of goats. And so he's describing the woman on those ones. And if you want, you can color code those as well. Okay, so in chapter 3, we transition from the courtship to the wedding. So let's read a little bit of chapter 3. All night long on my bed, I looked for the one my heart loves. I looked for him, did not find him. I will get up now and go about the city, through its streets and squares. I will search for the one my heart loves. So that's when I was referencing the one my heart loves. She keeps saying that over and over. The one my heart loves, the one my heart loves. That is 3 times. She'll say it more times, but remember the one my heart loves over here, she's talking about the male that we put in those notes. Okay, verse 4, I held him and would not let him go till I brought him to my mother's house in the room of the one who conceived me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Who is this coming up from the wilderness like a column of smoke perfumed with myrrh and incense made from the spices of the merchant? Look at Solomon's carriage, escorted by 60 warriors, the noblest of Israel, all of them wearing the sword, all experienced in battle, each with a sword at his side, prepared for the terrors of night. King Solomon made for himself the carriage. He made it of wood from Lebanon. Its posts he made of silver, its base of gold. Its seat was upholstered with purple, its interior inlaid with love. Daughters of Jerusalem, come out and look, you daughters of Zion. Look on King Solomon wearing a crown, the crown with which his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day his heart rejoiced. So it's the day of his wedding. And his heart rejoiced. Okay, so chapter 4, this is what she says about the wedding, and then he's going to continue the conversation about the wedding in chapter 4. And then chapter 5 is now it's their lasting relationship. Okay, and so right at the end of the wedding section, at the end of 4, this is where they're basically saying, and now they're gonna have sex. So the end of chapter 4, it says, awake north wind and come south wind, blow on my garden, its fragrance may spread everywhere. Let my beloved come into his garden and taste its choice fruits. So this is, they've gotten married, and now 5 is going to be when it gets a little more graphic, I guess you would say. And this symbolizes the lasting relationship in chapter 5 to 8. So let's go ahead and go over the analogies of this, because we're already almost at 30 minutes. And you can read all these details, and you can look at all the footnotes that go with them to kind of break apart the analogies they're saying, what they're referencing. They're referencing a lot of cultural stuff and other things that have happened in the Old Testament. So that's a great thing to dig into if you're wanting to study this book, is look at those footnotes, write all those notes down, look into those things, use a Bible dictionary, maybe look up some of the words you're not sure of, like his body is like polished ivory decorated with lapis lazuli. His legs are pillars of marble set on bases of pure gold. So I have no idea what lapis lazuli is, but apparently she thinks that's hot. So I might want to write down some words. I have no idea what they mean. Look in other versions, look in Bible dictionaries, and kind of understand some of these. Like chapter 7, they've got over here, chapter 7, where is it? Then they start talking about places. You might want to look at what these places looking like back in the day. The pools of Heshbon, the gate of Bath Ribim, your nose like the Tower of Lebanon, looking toward Damascus, your head crowns you like Mount Carmel. So another thing you could do when you're taking these notes is circle these places, which if I had more time, I would do for you. And then look at a map, draw a little rectangle, and do kind of a quick map of where these places might be. Or you could also list out the names of the places and then put a little equals. And when you're researching, write what that place was known for or what's pretty about it, either through pictures you're looking at or things you're looking up. Like maybe one place is where they found a lot of gold that they could use for their temples, or another place might have been filled with water. Just write kind of what appealed to the people about those places, and that will give you more insight on why they would use that as a compliment. So those are different ways you could take notes on this. The last thing I want to do right here is write down the 3 analogies that this book is discussing. And I want you, when you're reading through the book of Solomon, or Song of Songs, I want you to look for these analogies. And then the other thing you can do is maybe even label them 1, 2, 3. Then when you see that specific analogy, write a little number 1 next to it if it's the first analogy, or write a number 2 next to it if it's the second analogy. So there's endless ways you can take notes. I'm trying to give you a bunch of ideas rather than going through and doing every single one of those. I will take notes after I turn this off and then take a picture of those to share with you guys in the group if you'd like to see those as well. So for now, I'm just going to give you the 3 analogies. The first one is God's love for his people. The analogies of love between husband and wife. Let me... So you can see that a little better. Okay, the 3 analogies of love between a husband and wife. 1 that you're going to see is God's love for his people. 2 is Christ as groom. I need to put my tripod on something that's not attached to the table. Sorry, I'm shaking this like crazy. I'll try to fix that for next time. For his bride, the church. And then number 3 is a Christian's love for God. And then, of course, I like visuals, so I'm going to draw. I'm going to do this to represent God, like sunshine coming from a cloud. Love for his people. I'm going to draw the earth. Christ as groom for his bride. The church. So I'm going to show the cross with the church that came of it. Christ's love for the church, I guess, do a heart in between those. And then a Christian's love for God. How could we represent Christian? I liked the old fish symbol. So the Christian's love for God, God's love for his people, and Christ as groom for his bride, the church. Okay, so if you want some of these type of notes, I've got them in my timelines. You can buy them individually for my cheat sheet notes. You can buy them individually. You can bundle them for cheaper or for a better deal. And then you can also get more information on these books of the Bible from sources like my blog, or you can look on things like BibleGateway.com is a great resource. As well as all these books and things that you find at Christian bookstores, like concordances, commentaries, all that good stuff. So I hope this was informational for you. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the description. And I hope that you guys have an awesome weekend. And I will see you here next Friday to go over some more of your suggestions. So thank you to the women that asked about outlining Song of Songs, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks, girls.